salute Nama. So few are on the front row, Professor Prerna, Professor B.K. Singh, Professor Tekchandani, Professor Sanjeev Kumar, Professor Ranjana ji, Professor Ashutosh Kumar, Alka Gupta ji, Malik Saab and many others. So, my dear friend, this book deals with democracy. And democracy is threatened, and it has been threatened once in this country, and almost 19 months, 21 months roughly, it was under the dark cloud, which was never seen any day. So after 19 long months, it came to see the kind of fresh air, fresh light. So first of all, before I start my presentation, I must be very, very thankful to our chief guest, Sri Koshyari ji, and I have taken this inspiration to write a book on emergency from after 20 years of discussion with him, because he spent 19 months in prison and he had a huge experience. He was a very young man at that point of time. Just 51 years down the line, he 85, just imagine. I mean, the kind of commitment for democracy. Democracy sustains with sacrifice, and such a person is an epitome of sacrifice. So, and my colleague Rekha ji has already stated a lot about him. So I will conclude his section reciting Kabir couplet that वृक्ष कभू न फल भखें, नदी न संचय नीर, परमारथ के कारणे साधुन धरा सभी. For our Vice Chancellor, few facts I should produce before you. He took over on 7th October 2021, and QS World University ranking, Delhi University was 510. Today, this year, 2026, it is 322. So, 183 points. University has jumped. Under his able, dedicated, meticulous leadership. He is a man who has not only inspired teachers, he has inspired even students. He is very cozy with his students and organized many things. Even within the VC cabin, he meets his students very regularly, very openly, and hardly he misses any occasion to interact with the students. So, I will conclude this section with a Sanskrit sloka. ज्ञान दीपेन दीप्तामा शिष्याणा हित कामयाया राजते कुलगुरु श्रीमान विश्वविद्यालय भूषणम. In हिंदी, शिष्यों के हित की कामना से ज्ञान दीप से दीप्त आत्मा वाले श्रीमान कुलगुरु प्रोफेसर योगेश सिंह जी विश्वविद्यालय के भूषण के रूप में सुशोभित हैं. I salute you, sir, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the academic community for your hard work, your dedication and your commitment about uplifting the overall status of the higher institutions of learning. India will be a Viksit Bharat when we will properly educate our younger generation. We have 60% roughly to our younger generation. Regarding emergency, it is written in the preamble of our constitution, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute into a sovereign democratic republic. My dear, to cut it short, on 12th of June 1975, Allahabad High Court, brave Judge Justice Jagmohan Sinha declared Indira Gandhi's election from Raebareli Lok Sabha null and void. Indira Gandhi approached to the Supreme Court, the vacation bench, refused to stay it, given a kind of conditional stay, and according to that, her membership was not existed. So morally, she was not on the post, should not be on the post, but she continued, and her advisor advised that you must not resign. I must tell you, when Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister in January 1966, after the sudden demise of Lal Bahadur Shastri, our great icon of socialism, Raman Lohia ji termed her as Gungi Gudiya. But within 10 years, he became the leader of the masses. But it has been stated by Lord Acton that power tends to be corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So coterie which has been developed, high command culture which has been developed. Indira Gandhi was of course a mass leader. In 1971 general election, she won 352 seats. But soon she started losing the public support because of the coterie. Kautilya stated in Arthashastra that Raja must meet 1/8 of the time to the Praja. Then only Raja will be knowing what is happening on the ground, otherwise Raja will be misinformed. And then Raja will not take the positive decisions. So Indira Gandhi became victim of the high command, the coterie. Sanjay Gandhi became a new unconstitutional power. And he was more super prime minister kind of situation was created. And emergency, within that process, emergency was imposed. And emergency, we have not witnessed. Here, maximum average age is 40 years. So 51 years before emergency was imposed. So we are not aware about the actual problem of emergency. What had happened during that stipulated period? Honorable Koshyari ji is here. He will narrate us what actually happened. But as for the literature, only few things I must tell you that 1 crore 10 lakh sterilization had taken place. 1 crore 10 lakh. And at that point of time, India's population was hardly 60 crore. So 1 crore younger generation became important because marriage. So you will hardly find such a heinous human right violation ever happened in the annal of democratic history. So that has happened. And this, a kind of communist oligarchy deliberately forgotten. This saga of sorrow, saga of perpetual unleashment of terror, which Hannah Arendt has beautifully produced in her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. Although she has given the example of Stalin's Russia and Mao's China, but that applies to India at that point of time also. State power was unleashed to kill the people. When ADM Jabalpur and Sivkant Shukla case was produced before Supreme Court, only Hansraj Khanna gave dissent. All 4 judges rectified the imposition of emergency. That was the most darkest period of Indian judiciary. And Indian judiciary took that decision on the judicial theory of doctrine of necessity, which was at par with Pakistan and Myanmar Supreme Courts. But fortunately, India's high courts played very good role. Jagmohan Sinha was a judge of Allahabad High Court. Even Delhi High Court gave a very good decision in Kuldeep Nair case. Even Mumbai High Court, Gujarat High Court, they gave very good decision and supported, human liberties, democracy, fundamental values. But all those judges who gave those decisions were tortured indirectly. Justice Sinha, was tortured. Justice Hansraj Khanna was denied Chief Justice position. And one of the most important thing is that Dr. Ambedkar stated a lot about it in the Constituent Assembly. But Dr. Ambedkar was always saying that this country should be united. And Dr. Ambedkar mentioned that history has taught us that when foreign aggressors came and captured. Therefore, he took emergency powers from the Weimar Constitution of Germany, 48. Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution, which was already a redundant constitution, was taken and incorporated, and that has become Article 52 to Article 360 of Indian Constitution. And emergency was imposed, internal emergency was imposed at that point of time through Article 352. So there was a massive protest, and many people, communist people, say that RSS has played no role. I am not backing for the RSS, but I am just quoting an article of a non-RSS journalist. MC Subramanian, a very renowned journalist, editor of India Review Madras chapter, he wrote in an issue of April 1997, among the groups which carried on this work with heroic persistence, the RSS group stands out for special mention. In organizing Satyagrah, in maintaining the All India Communication Network, in quietly collecting money to finance the movement, in arguing the arranging the distribution of literature without any bottlenecks, and in offering help to fellow prisoners of other parties and other faiths in the jail. They proved that they constitute the nearest answer to Swami Vivekananda call for an army of sannyasis to take up social and political work in the country. They are a constructive revolutionary force who have the admiration to follow political workers and respect of even their erstwhile political opponents. There were allegations against Jayaprakash Narayan. We all know that Jayaprakash Narayan was epitome of that movement. The allegation that Jayaprakash ji has made RSS accessible to power. Jayaprakash ji was also clubbed as a fascist, and RSS was also clubbed as a fascist by the Communist Party people. JP simply made a press conference remark, if RSS is fascist, then I am also a fascist. And we all know that JP was not a political leader. He had already left the politics, although he was a very big, young freedom fighter. But for the sake of the protection of democracy, he took the straight. And JP's moral standard was so high, Manor Koshyari ji, that when JP started movement against Indira Gandhi, he returned 39 letters to Indira Gandhi, which Kamala Nehru wrote to JPY Prabhavati Devi, because both were very good friends. And all those letters, according to Kuldeep Nair book, were not speaking good for Indira Gandhi. Just see the kind of moral standard. And then he stated Indira Gandhi that now I am going to strict against you. Keep this letter with yourself so it will not go into dirty hands. So such was a moral standard. And little bit role of Communist Party of India during emergency. Although CPM supported anti-emergency movement, but CPI was very closely associated with Indira Gandhi. C. Achyuta Menon became Chief Minister of Kerala in 1971 and remained Chief Minister till 1977 after the treatment of emergency. And not only that, they were hand to hand with Congress and the Indira Gandhi regime to beat the people who were protesting in the streets against the imposition of emergency. As I have said that justice is very important element, I will be very short, but I will quote Kautilya, who talk about justice. Kautilya says that ensuring of justice by the king is very bedrock of any good system. I quote, "It is the power of punishment alone, when exercised impartially in proportion to the guilt and irrespective of whether the person punished is the king's son or an enemy, that protects the world and the next." So that is the basic civilizational legacy of Indian notion of justice. John Marshall, who became immediate Chief Justice of America after their independence, he gave a very classic decision, Malbary versus Madison in 1803, and he declared President of America and the Congress is not only authority of constitutional interpretation is the Supreme Court. So he said that Constitution is what the judges say. Indian Supreme Court failed utterly to even take a 20% of John Marshall saga of justice. Dr. Ambedkar stated in Constituent Assembly, we do not want to create an imperium in embryo, and at the same time we want to give the judiciary ample independence so that it can act without fear. Massive human right violation has taken place. There is a little time, but I must tell you that JP wrote a letter to Indira Gandhi that when I was imprisoned by the Britishers, solo imprisonment, I wrote a letter to the British jailer that I am solo, so please provide at least one person to meet 1 hour with me. So they provided Ram Manohar Lohia. But during emergency, leader like JP was not allowed a single person to meet for months. It was a mental torture. If you will be provided everything, but you will not meet anybody for 1 month, I think you will be suffering with multiple problems. So that has taken place. If it has taken place with JP, it has taken place with almost more candidly with others. So I will conclude that imposition of emergency was a barbarian step unleashed by an incumbent Indira Gandhi government against democracy. But Supreme Court of India was utterly failed to protect the very dignity of democracy, which was the basic duty of judiciary. But Dr. Ambedkar also mentioned in Constituent Assembly that people is the ultimate custodian of democracy. And people of India proved with their maximum sacrifice. How many people have been killed, nobody knows. But data says that more than 1 lakh people were killed directly or indirectly, because at that point of time, there is a lack of resources. But where you can know how many people had been killed, but more than 2 lakh people, Amnesty International says, were imprisoned. More than 2 lakh people. But people of India gave a befitting reply to Indira Gandhi-led Congress party. Indira Gandhi lost her own seat from Raebareli, and it was a massive victory after 1952 when election was started in India, when Congress got only 154 seats and lost, and Janata Party came into power with 290 seats, and that was the first manifestation of the people's power. So people is the ultimate custodian. Abraham Lincoln stated that democracy is for the people, by the people, on the people. So people of India had proved that they are the ultimate custodian of democracy, and nobody, no incoming incumbent also should forget that they should not be only avoided by the norms, constitutional morality, but they must also serve as a servant of the people, not as the master of the people. Thank you very much.